Here we go.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order at 5:50. And if we can get a roll call.
I'm here.
So present is going to be Gary Paul,
Yep.
Councilor Marshall, Councilor Rodriguez, and Councilor Dombrowski.
Right.
How's that sound for you?
Chairman Dombrowski.
Here I'm just Councilor. I'm just-
Wearing two hats.
Okay. This is going to be motion to set the land use. We need a motion to set the land use planning public works committee 2022 regular meeting schedule, which everybody should have been able to look over and have.
Yeah, just leave it how it is. It's fine.
Everything look good?
Remember, you always meet the first Monday of the month unless it's a holiday, then sometimes we move it to a Tuesday.
Choose, right. Yeah, I think,
Yeah, it's usually at 6.
Yeah.
That works out for me too. Because usually I have to be somewhere at 9 or by 9.
Yeah,
okay. All right,
So
so
that works.
yeah, normally 6 o'clock.
Most hard meetings are early.
all right, well, do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So motion carries. All right, we have a motion for the land use planning public works committee to hold their meetings in a hybrid format, both in person and remote via video conference via the, what is it, the OWL,
Via Zoom.
via Zoom.
I'll second that. So when we chime in through Zoom, do we show up on this? Or is it gonna be something? How's that gonna work?
So when you hear in person, the owl will do the video in here, but it allows remote participation from the residents. and from the
Okay,
neighbors.
so what will I see on the screen? I know,
You'll see the same thing you do in a Zoom,
okay.
but you'll also see the owl.
Right, so how, and that's a good question. How do we interact with, I mean, once we get this on, it's kind of self.
Roxanne will walk, I don't know.
It's magic.
That's
Right.
Roxanne.
So actually the owl is sort of just like another Zoom person essentially. So it's the camera, and as people speak, it will zoom in on those people. So like a few minutes ago, the 3 of yous were talking, so I could see all 3 of yous. If people were home, like when we do Zoom and you see all those people on the screen, it would be like what we saw last night. So the Zoom is just basically another camera and an audio, but it gives us the option so that you guys can be there in person and people can be at home at the same time.
When they talk, they can just talk.
When they talk,
We would just
yeah,
get a
so
camera.
let me see. So let me show you. So let me just, okay, I'm gonna start my video. So now when I'm talking, if you look at that little owl thing, you should be seeing me on there too.
Yeah.
Are you seeing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like in a couple of months, or I don't know when, but whenever the budget allows for it, the big screen in the chambers is gonna be moved into the annex meeting room. So if there's people attending your meetings, they will be able to see everything up on the screen. They'll see the people that are at home and all that stuff.
looking at
And
those.
then we're gonna get a new screen in the chambers.
Okay.
So, but for tonight, this is just like a practice and we don't have everything we need, but it looks like it's working pretty good.
We just couldn't open the meeting. I tried to open the meeting on my computer and I couldn't actually get in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
That's
well,
just the way
that,
the meeting was set up.
right, okay.
yeah, that's because we just set this up quick as a test because we just did just got this equipment loaded up today. So that's how it'll work. I don't know if that helps.
The links will be on the agenda.
Right,
What did you
yeah.
say?
Yeah, the links, the Zoom links will be on the agenda like normal.
They will be on the agenda just like always.
Okay.
Yeah, tonight it wasn't because like I said, this was just a last minute test that.
Right.
Yep, okay.
Works pretty good. All right, so, and I heard a motion, correct?
Yep.
I'm ex officio. I don't make.
That's right, you can't make motions.
Who made the motion? I
Okay.
second.
Second, well, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved.
I think it's done.
Good evening.
Wait,
All right, and then let's see a review. The outstanding action items contained in the memo dated October 10th, 2019, as forwarded by the Land Use Planning Public Works Committee of the 25th Town Council.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've all had a chance to look at that, but this is the
Just briefly.
brief, yeah, this is, so basically, for the most part, if you look at all the action items that are on here, if you look at your agendas, for your normal agendas, you'll see every one of these is on your agenda
Yeah.
as old business.
Yeah.
But these are the things that we've carried, that the previous land use committee had carried, didn't complete, so to say. Some of the things that are on here are long-term items that have been on the agenda for land use for as long as I've been on land use, and some of them even carry even longer than that. There's some stuff that's newer, like the road permit application. That's a newer one. I'm trying to figure out how to work through that. We could talk more during the regular meeting, but basically it's like if Groton Utilities or Squat need to go dig up a brand new paved road.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing, which is possible. And then we'd like to work on the ordinance for the Agricultural Commission, which is why we're having guests for the next meeting.
For the next
And then, yep.
Okay.
And the long, everything down below that is really long-term. Have been on there for many, many, except for item number 7. But the land use committee is responsible for maintaining the list of town-owned properties and updating it periodically. So we acquire lands through like subdivisions,
Yeah.
conservation
Right,
subdivisions.
right.
Then
Yeah, there's a
those lands that come up,
percentage.
so there's some percentage that land gets deeded over to the town, and then
Correct.
the
And then
town
divvy.
council, you guys will make a recommendation to say, okay, administrative control would go to
Works,
conservation or
conservation.
or WPCA if there's something on there, or Parks and Recs, or however it may work out.
Correct.
And then that would go to the full council for vote.
the list is pretty extensive.
It is, and there's some updates to it that actually we need to start looking at that
Yeah,
had
I know. I
gotten prior to-
just started looking at things with Mike Morelli. on
Right,
that,
yeah,
Just
yeah.
was getting into
Yep.
that.
And then like the blight, that's usually just a periodic report from our land use planner, the town director of land use. To updates on what's going on with blight enforcement in the town. The Clark Farm has been a long term. What are we gonna go do with it? That's really more of an open item, keeping it there. And because that property is under the control of the town council.
Counselor Dombrowski, how often do we get these updates? You know, like, there were several updates, like the town owned property, and then you can see that there were different colors, like red and
Yeah, that's
yellow.
that update that we got from the land use office, like literally just came in just as we were finishing up the last town council.
Mhm.
But if you look at the last time that was updated was 2017.
Okay.
So it's not a every meeting to look at.
Or
It's just-
every year. I
Or every
was
year,
trying to
but
get it.
right,
Okay.
right. But we go through it periodically, make sure it's up to date, and then update the list accordingly. Remove items like if we
Yeah, I saw-
transferred some property over to like Avalone or something like
Yeah,
that,
I
or
saw
we
some
sold
were
it.
struck
Right,
out.
exactly. Yep.
Probably twice or 4 times a year,
Okay.
ish.
And then the last item was kind of one we've been keeping on for a while to keep an eye on at the park over on East Street. There was some vandalism going on over
Yeah,
there and things
yep.
like that. We've been keeping an eye on updates and what's going on over there. And then the last part is we just started to opening up the discussion at the end of the last town council, which is the can of marijuana legalizing, allowing it in town and stuff like that. So,
We talked briefly on the EDC, so we can talk about those in the regular meeting.
yes, but
We'll go through
these are
each of
just,
them.
this is just a list of, hey, the things that are going forward, and every one of these items is on your agenda for tonight for the regular meeting.
All right. So any discussion on that? Any other comments?
I will wait till the regular meeting.
Okay. All right. Any other business?
After these people, then, huh?
Your
No,
motion.
you don't get any other business at this meeting, but if members want to have some comments about your work, you can talk about that.
Reminder is that on a, this meeting is just, you gotta follow the agenda. If you have a special meeting like tonight, because it's a different, you can only discuss what's on the agenda. If it's a regular meeting, you can vote to add things to the agenda if something
that's
comes
right.
up.
Yeah, this one is the. All right, so do I hear a motion for adjournment?
But I just give my last, if there's any comments anybody wants to make.
Yeah, anybody?
Nah, I got nothing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, bear with me. It's been a long day today.
I hear you.
Okay, so I hear a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second break.
Except for the liquor store and the grocery
Right.
store.
Kevin, if you just hit pause on the recording, because we don't want to have to start.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Land Use Planning Public Works Committee special meeting to order. It's 6:15. And roll call,
John Marshall.
Naomi Rodriguez.
and myself, Gary Paul,
Also President,
and
Council Chair Kevin Dombrowski, and Chairman of the Agricultural Commission, Bruce Baxter.
Bruce.
Carson.
How do you spell your last name?
GARSTKN.
And from where?
Agricultural Commission.
I'm gonna be a little slow. Okay, next is review and approval of prior minutes. I know that we're all new to that, but did everyone have a chance to review
Yes.
Yes.
and go over the minutes
Mhm.
from November 1st, 2020? Were there any corrections or anything that needed to be seen, add to?
Well, we weren't there, so we don't know if there's any corrections.
Exactly.
Look good to me.
But I'm gonna ask the question.
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Wait, you need a mover and a seconder.
Yeah. So John, are you,
I'll move it.
okay?
And I will second.
Okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Citizen petitions? None?
Okay.
Informational items?
Is your paper copy different than this copy? Because it's not in the same order that I'm in.
No?
No, it's informational, citizens' comments and then informational item.
All right, and then review
Okay.
the minutes.
Yeah, it is different.
you're
It is different?
That's okay, you're good.
All right, we'll keep
As long
going.
as we hit all the bases, we're fine.
Okay, yeah, I got two different ones here actually myself, so Tuesday, yeah. Yeah, we'll keep going then, all right. So informational items, I don't have any. Presentations, I know that's on mine, I don't know if it's on
Mm-mm.
this one.
Nope.
No presentation.
All right, business of the meeting. First item on the agenda, continued discussion regarding Ledyard's annual appropriation for road maintenance, road repairs and resurfacing, relative leaks and breaks in the water systems that cause ongoing repair work, requiring excavation and patching work on the newly paved streets.
So a little history on this is that a couple of months ago, Public Works had put out basically that, hey, here's the roads that we're gonna go resurface.
Mhm.
But they also kind of put in a caveat, they'll be recognized that these roads also have water infrastructure that is aged. And we can't guarantee that either WPCA or SQUA would not come in like shortly after we do it and start digging up
Right.
the roads. So where it got brought to us is to see if there was a way that we could,
Coordinate.
not so much coordinate, but, put some sort of regulation together, either through the road ordinance itself or something else that would kind of drive that if utilities did some repairs to their infrastructure, that they would repair the road surface kind of back to where it was, so they don't create the potholes on brand new roads.
To the center line, right?
Right,
That's the
right,
deal.
that's what the state, but we've also been looking, so this is part you gotta go dig in a little bit, is that the state kind of exempts utilities from those requirements because they're emergent repair work. So we gotta look at to see if there's something we can do to help to get them to, if they dig a hole, just don't fill it back in and just
And hot patch it,
one,
right.
and hot patch, the 1 square foot or 2 square feet across, that would definitely become a pothole in the wintertime
Mm.
or in the spring. So that's kind of where, we started looking at. Mike Washington at the time was looking through to see where the state, but he was unable to find anything there that would allow us to do it. So a little bit of legwork on this to see if there is something we can do. So that's,
So as a town, we can't mandate that.
well, that's what we gotta look to
If it's
see
not
if we
a
can,
state-
Right, right.
if we can. Not saying that we can't, but we don't know if we can. So that's a little bit of research in state statute and the state road
Yeah.
ordinances and things like that, their laws, to see if there's something that we can do to kind
gonna
of
be hard
force
to
the
do.
utilities that when they do, it's just, it's SQI and our WPCA as well. That, okay, we just don't dig up the 10 feet of road that under where our pipeline is and then just cold patch, fill back in and cold patch it, and then some people say they go, I've been driving over these roads that are bouncy for several years, and then we finally get it repaved, and then the utility comes up and digs it right
Raise it
back
right
up.
back up, yeah.
So that's kind of where this came, because there was a little bit of some outcry from some of the residents, going like, how do we protect that?
So do we know what work Mike Washington did so that we don't reinvent the wheel and go?
Well, he
through the
didn't
same research?
really, I mean, he went looking for some things and he was unable to find it, so I don't know, we can always call Mike to see if he got anything. Feel free, I mean, I've talked to Mike, he's, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to see if he. And of course, he had the end because
DOT.
he works for DOT, so. So he may be a good resource to go kind of contact to say, hey, is there anything that we can do, or did you look at the state side that allows us to put something together? This is one of those long-term things to figure out what we can and can't do,
Right.
and then to make the decision as that goes.
Okay. So we'll continue discussion on that. Any other comments on that?
So to keep us from digging up the road 2 weeks later, could that just be another line in the application to contact?
But remember, if it's utility, there is no application.
Well, I'm saying in the paperwork somewhere in the process.
Right.
Yeah, but how would you?
And that's the
do that on
question.
an
how do you-
emergency
how do you-
repair.
Right, how do you,
basis?
because if it's an emergency repair, the utility.
Well, the emergencies you can't do anything about because they pop up in the middle of the
Right.
night, but I'm saying like if there's regular,
Oh, to the regular application to do
Regular work
work
being
on the
done,
road, yeah, we
yeah.
can put that into the road ordinance to say, yeah, you'll repair the road to the center line and all that kind of good stuff.
or contact Public Works, say, are you paving this road anytime
Right,
soon?
right.
We have to dig it up.
This is more from not from like, some guy redoing his driveway and end up tearing up half the road and he's got to go fix it. This is more of the utility's got a water main break
Right, right.
over on Lake Street and they got to go dig that up.
Right, what's it gonna look like when we're done?
Exactly.
Okay.
Any other comments?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Discussion and possible action to issue a $560 refund to Mr. Paul Maugle at 827 Colonel Ledyard Highway for a fee charge for a zoning board of appeals number 962.
Now, if we allow this, does that open the door for everyone else to
That was-
do it? Like, I don't like
Well-
to say I want my money back.
It could. But I don't think we've had that many appeals. This is, what this was is a fee charged by ZBA
Yeah.
for an appeal of a ZEO decision. And if you look through some of the paperwork in the history, that there was some case where there was one case in particular where the judge had determined that the state, when the legislature came up with the rules that for fees being charged for applicants, that they differentiate between an applicant and an appeal. So if you look at the enabling statute for ZBA or zoning, it says, it doesn't say appeal, it says application.
Hmm.
So
It's
they,
not- So it's not
so
there.
it's silent.
Silent.
So when I did a little research on this and I went and found several towns around the state. And what I found interesting was that there are many towns around the state that are like us. In our fee structure for ZBA, application fee, $500. ZBA, appeal of ZEO's decision, $500. And typically those charges are, hey, this is the cost that the town has to incur to do
Right.
the public noticing and maybe some legal fees and things like that. But if you look at the state, the case that was held, the court basically said that it doesn't matter what happened with the case itself, whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, is that the statute's silent on charging a fee for
an appeal.
an appeal. I kind of like sit there and go, hold it, but that means that anybody can just appeal a ZEO's decision at no expense or cost to
Get their money-
themselves.
Get their money back.
And they get to fight it and hold it up or whatever. But like I said, I went and looked at a lot of municipalities in town, in the state that have, just like we do in our fee structure for ZBA. But then I looked at like, there's equally the number of other towns that have application fees, X dollars for an application. Appeal is ZEO's decision, 0.
So based on that, it sounds like there should be a fee. If there's a cost incurred by the town, why would it fall in the same purview as everything else?
And so I sit there the same thing. I talked to Juliet and I've also talked to Mike Cherry about it. I said, I understand, yep, that the town incurs a cost, but the statute is silent on an appeal.
So it doesn't say you can't do it.
But there is case law that says, that was provided by the town attorney that said you can't,
You can't.
right? So the likelihood is that we would have to refund, and here's the fun part too, is that it's not just a $500, we only charge a $500 fee. The state of Connecticut charges anytime that you file a permit or an application, or if they get $60.
Oh, yeah.
So that $60 comes out of our pocket.
So we're paying the $60 that we already paid to the state back to Mr. Maugle in this case.
Yeah.
As well as the $500 fee that we would have charged for the legal notices and stuff like that. I get it. It's like, but the issue isn't that we incurred cost. The issue is the statute is silent on the ability to charge a fee
Yeah.
for an appeal of his ZEO's decision.
What's our attorney say? Or he has got that far?
Yeah, I don't know, and that's the question I was trying to reach out to. I asked Juliet to, what is the recommendation from the town attorney? Regardless of this, there's two things that gotta happen, or inclusive of this, I should say. If we decide to refund the $560 to Mr. Maugle, we also then have to change the fee structure.
Right.
Appendix for ZBA to change that dollar amount to 0. So that it doesn't happen again. So the first part of the discussion is, should we be paying it back or not? And I think that up to you guys to discuss, or hold off and see if you want to wait. Contact Juliet and say if we've heard anything from the town attorney on it.
I don't hear from the attorney.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I don't want to give it back based on principle. But that's not how laws
My
work.
initial thought was the same thing, but then I look at what I read through the statutes and I was unable to find anything that would uphold
Yeah, no, that's
my
just,
decision to do that
Yeah.
either, so.
that's not how rules and laws work, not in personal opinion, but just, my knee-jerk reaction is like, no,
Right.
you lost, suck it up.
Well, I know that so he didn't lose. Here's the other part, is that the appeal was withdrawn because it was mute. So it kind of like the situation went away.
Oh, so it never got to that
It
part.
didn't even,
Right.
it got
Okay,
to
so
the
that-
point of
that
them
makes it
scheduling the
right.
public
Right,
hearing and
so-
everything else, and then it kind of just
Right.
went away of its own accord. So it didn't even get to the point of actually, the appeal didn't even get heard.
All right, so that changes things a little bit.
But in this case here, I think it was heard, but I think it kind of went away by itself.
Who pulled it, him?
He filed the appeal.
Yeah, but who pulled it? How did it go away?
I can't remember. You have to talk to Mike and
All right, well,
and
let's
Juliet.
get some
but
more
I remember there was some information about it kind of went away. So it's immaterial, but that, like I said, that whole point, if you look at the state statute in accordance to if you look at the case law, it kind of doesn't matter.
Well, if Maugle said never mind, then no, it doesn't get his money back. But if someone else said, yeah,
Yeah.
we're not gonna look at
Yeah,
it.
Paul decided to, he's requesting a refund.
But I'm saying, if Paul pulls the repeal, if Paul canceled it, then no, he doesn't get his money back, because he.
Well, no, because even then, because and to his point, even if he withdrew the appeal, his whole thing is I should have never been charged it in the first place.
Because there's no structure.
Correct.
All right, I got it. Okay. All right, let's hear back from the attorney, see what they have to say.
Yeah.
And then, I know land use can be tricky when it comes to
Mhm.
hurt feelings.
Any other discussion on that?
No.
We'll keep that on the agenda. All right, moving on, we'll go to,
The reason why Mr. Garcia's here.
okay, continue discussion to amend ordinance 300-022. An ordinance establishing an agricultural commission for the town of Ledyard to expand the commission's scope of work.
So in your packages, there's a letter from
Yep, I
Bruce
saw that.
requesting some specific language to be added into the ordinance. And so basically the one line or one section that's being added to section 8 in powers and duties of the ordinance basically says that act as a general resource and advocate for Ledyard farmers and the agricultural community and specify functionality or specifically function as a liaison between town government and Ledyard farmers as the town and farmers adjust to adopt the changing environment of modern farming. So, and I'm gonna actually, with your permission, Mr. Chair, I will ask Bruce if he would like to provide any amplifying information from the commission.
Hi, I'm Bruce Garcia. The reason we're looking at this is because our first task was to start the commission into a specific job, which was to have on file information so that if farmers wanted to apply for their development rights to be bought, they could do it. Well, we have done that job, we've completed it, but that was the entire scope of our work. So we really have nothing on the table except for just that. So what we're looking at doing is having our scope expanded so that we don't have to come back to the land use committee or the town council and then go to a referendum to change or to get permission to look at different ideas that could influence farmers. And that's generally, I think, so it's kind of a broad statement.
Yep.
But it's dealing just with the farmers in this town.
Yes, yes, it does. Yep.
And being the liaison to the agriculture commission and actually who wrote the ordinance and a few of the other things to get this stuff going. They've done a lot of good work. They still have an agreement according with the ordinance and the statute that enables us to put that together. Although they've finished the work as Bruce has stated, it's kind of an ongoing thing because as lands develop and more if more farms come in, adding those lands into the inventory and things like that. So, and being able to be the advocate and to work through to apply for these small farm grants or something with unique soils and things like that. There's some, because we all know about like the big grant, if you like the Morgan farm, which is the large acre farm that they could sell the development grant, but for a smaller farm, those were not available. Like for 10 acres, 20 acre farms, that was not available because the state didn't deem those smaller farming areas to be of value to save from development versus the bigger acreages like the Morgan farm and a few of the others in town. So that's where we started with this. They've, like I said, the Agricultural Commission has done a lot of good work putting the list together and getting things going. But they've determined, and I don't disagree, that they really want to truly be a better advocate in the town government to support farming and agricultural uses in town. So I think that's the premise behind the language that allows them to be a better advocate for farming and agricultural uses.
Yes. And I think one of the points is that I know from growing up, I grew up in Ledyard. When I was growing up here, there were 35 active dairy farms. There's not a one. So I think the whole character of Ledyard has changed somewhat. You don't have the farming community that you did have 50 years ago. It's more let's just say bedroom community.
Yeah, that's probably the right word.
So I think it's important for Ledyard because that was one of the draws that brought people here was the farm. And you could drive down the roads and you see a farm, you could see things. So I think that to keep that into people's forefront, I think it's important.
Yeah,
And
I would agree
think
with that.
because a lot of people weren't brought up on a farm here. It's really important to let them see what they'd be missing if they weren't there.
Kind of like agricultural tourism.
No,
No, but you could go that way.
they could,
It's an
but
idea.
it's an idea, it's an idea, exactly. No, it's more, I think it's broader than that, so that may be included in that, but it's broader than that. And just a reminder of the process is that if you choose to move forward with it tonight, the next step would go to admin for their review.
Yep.
And then to public hearing and then to the approval of the
Yeah,
town
no,
council.
we're-
I read everything and I was impressed. And I personally would like to go forward.
I'm good with it.
So if you don't mind, I would like to make a motion.
I think she just made it.
To continue forward and bring this to the admin council and the full town council after that.
But, so just all you have to really do is say that you make a motion to approve the
Right.
ordinance as amended, dated,
The
the draft dated 11/15/21.
Yes,
So moved.
yes, motion to,
Did John second that?
second. I
John, you're
was reading
seconding
something,
that.
sorry.
Now,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
thank you.
Actually, I was just thinking back, I grew up on farms, both my grandparents were farmers and I was thinking back, we used to have cow chip fights.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, again, we used to get our milk up there in Lamptown Road, up there at the farm.
Oh, then I probably served it.
Oh, probably. We used to live right on Haley Road. My dad would bring us down there and we used to shake the milk to get the,
Yeah.
because of the fat would
My
come up to the
grandfather was a
top.
dairy farmer in Uncle many, many years ago.
my grandpa was squares with them.
Yeah,
I
I
love
probably
it.
poured the milk out of the bulk tank.
Yeah, because probably. I mean, I was a little kid, but boy, I was, that was the real stuff.
Well, if you're all set, I'm.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
And
much.
nice to meet you.
You as well. Take care.
Good
Oh, by
seeing
the way, Naomi is your new liaison to agriculture.
Pleased to meet you.
Please meet you.
Okay. Where am I here? I'm writing notes. Sorry. Number 4 on the agenda, discussion regarding Public Act 21-1, legalization of cannabis, marijuana, retail stores. That's a discussion.
CBD,
No,
just pot.
Okay, I read all of this.
so, yeah, my background in this is we put it on the agenda as kind of a holding point.
Yeah.
And we're waiting so the real step, you gotta look at the process and the step, and the first step is for P and Z to
I was
put their
gonna s-
moratorium in first.
Right,
I was gonna say, they're the ones that have to,
They're the first ones that have to act.
right, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
I'm not mistaken
And then
there.
when you go, if you look at the act that says whether or not we decide to go to
Because
referendum,
they're the only ones that can,
from a land use standpoint, it's
Right,
them
okay.
first, so. I put this on the agenda just as a holding point, waiting on planning and zoning to go do their initial step.
Where are they with this? Any idea?
They were gonna have it on the agenda at their last meeting, but they didn't notice it correctly. They're gonna have a public hearing on it. I don't know if it's on tomorrow night's, Thursday's agenda or not. I'm not sure.
do you have any sense of what they're,
They're pushing right now for a 6-month moratorium.
that's what I thought. Okay.
That's what they're recommending at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a few people have spoken about that, so.
okay, so if they ask for a 6-month moratorium, then it can't go to referendum? The referendum's been made.
Yeah, so I've asked them to extend it to a year.
Oh, okay,
But they haven't had their public hearing yet to actually establish the moratorium as of yet.
okay,
And their thought was that even if they put it for 6 months, that if they felt they needed to, they could extend it an additional 6
For
months.
another 6 months.
Right. So they wanted to kind of take baby steps and just do a short term, instead of just doing a full 1 year, do it 6 months, see where we stand, and then extend it if required.
okay, I got it.
So we'll keep that on the agenda just as a.
Yeah.
While we're-
Until we go through
Yeah.
the procedural steps it has to go through.
Correct.
But I figured it was important to get this on the agenda, so it was
Yeah,
there.
well, you know,
Yeah,
that's
that's
us
like
thinking
people
about
thinking,
it.
talking about it.
Exactly.
Right.
A lot of opinions, I'm sure. Any other discussion on that?
No.
We'll move forward to number 5 on the agenda. Continue discussion and possible action and the periodically review the list of town-owned property and update accordingly for the assignment of administrative control.
So this, yeah, so we have the list we got from Juliet.
Yeah.
Actually, this was put together by Liz Burdick. And I know Mike Morelli from the Conservation Commission. And
Yeah.
also, so the previous, by the time we actually got this, the previous town council was not able to look at this. So you're looking at a clean slate to decide if you want to go change some of the current administrative control of properties and plus adding the new properties that are listed as well. So I'm not suggesting you have to act on this tonight, so take a time to go review it.
Yeah, I would, my thought process, I would like to have some more time to be able to review it.
Yeah,
and-
because
and-
it's a very
There's
big
it's a
list.
lot.
Big
And
list.
I have questions. Like, is there a specific reason for the different colors, like the yellow and the red?
Yeah, I don't know, because that's what Liz Burdick did. And I don't know why, like I said,
You know, I feel like I know the answer to that, but I don't. Because
Yeah.
I've talked about it with both.
So
yeah,
what-
and
what's the end game with this list? Are we
I
trying
just
to?
update the list, just,
Do we
no,
want-
we're not
Is there
trying
a
to consolidate.
It's
No.
It's
There's no
just a
time
matter
frame.
of who, right.
This is
of
just to
who-
kind of just update periodically, go and
Who's got
update the
what?
list. There's no
Under
time.
conservation,
It's
what's
not like
there.
this has to be done by, I need
Next
this done by
month or
February or
something.
something like that. It's
Okay,
just,
that was
take your
my
time, take
concern.
your time to review
Yeah, I
it,
would
make
like
sure
to
you agree or
digest
disagree, digest. Because when I looked at it, and I looked at it very quickly, but I noticed that there's several properties that were kind of being recommended going from like WPCA to conservation. And I question whether or not that's the
Right,
right
too.
so
answer.
right here on the first page,
Yeah, I do too.
if you look at
There's some,
second
there's some
August
stuff in
Meadows,
there.
Yeah,
We don't want it.
it says admin control mayor public works, and then
Right.
it says recommended on for admin control conservation.
right. And but now the problem is, we gotta go look at why that's
Right,
what it
What's
is.
driving that?
What's driving it to be August Meadows, to be Public Works. And it could have been that when that subdivision went in, that was supposed to be a park.
Mhm.
And it may be overgrown, but that was the original reason.
Right.
So should it stay with Parks and Recs? Or should it be transferred to conservation?
Right.
It's no longer be using for the added.
Right, so if it's just gonna be a property that, a greenway per se,
Right.
then that
Right.
should be a
Yeah, It
conservation
doesn't have to be
commission.
maintained
Right.
either.
But
Right.
my bigger concern was not so much that one, but there was another property that I
Especially
looked
if
at
it's
real quick
something
that said
that could be
it's
added.
currently under like
Right,
WPCA control.
One person.
And so it's like
Yeah.
WPCA control, and it was recommended to move to conservation. And it's like, well, hold it, why is it under WPCA control? Is it under WPCA control because there's water line infrastructure under there?
Right,
And does
right,
conservation really want to take that on?
right, no.
Right.
So that's the kind of the, okay. do we
Okay,
really
so
wanna do
we
that?
have time to look
We
at
got
that.
time to look at it. And then there's some other stuff in it, like the old Founders Preserve development that was recommended to go to conservation. That one, I would say, don't do that, because right now that's in process of being transferred to Avalonia.
Right.
And that's being held up on rebounding that one house that's off onto the property and doing the land split and putting the whole parcel back together as one before we transfer it over to Avalonia. So there's some stuff that the mayor's office has to go to work through to get that done.
Okay, I see it, page 3. Says vacant lot, and it says recommended on for admin control conservation commission.
If you may agree with it, and I don't have I'm not saying it's a preference one way or the other, this is completely up to you, and then ultimately it will go to the full council for a vote.
Right.
But take time, take a look at it and see if you agree with, if this should be changed or shouldn't be changed, or maybe you don't agree with even some of the recommendations made there, maybe you think it should go to somebody else. That's part of what you gotta look into.
So we can work through the list, maybe a page at a time, or a block of 10 or 15 at a time, and
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
dissect each one.
Right. And there may be some new property in the list that don't have anybody, so, okay, who do we assign?
What were you saying about Founder's Way? It was going to be,
It's going, the town council we had a town meeting and the town council approved to move it to, well, actually, it's the town council recommended it at a town meeting to transfer the property to Avalonia,
okay,
and it was approved at a town meeting.
okay.
So whoever that is not now, leave it alone because it's no point in giving it to conservation for the short period of time. It's not gonna be town-owned property anymore.
Just to take it away.
So who did this? You said Liz Burdick?
So the original list that was put together, I did, and then Liz Burdick was updating it with the newest, some of the newest properties.
Mhm.
And then, Mike Morelli was working in the Conservation Commission. We're working to see if maybe there was something more that could be moved to conservation.
Mhm.
That's all.
Okay,
Then there were some recommendations that were made.
Yeah, you have to, there's a lot to digest, because there's, kind of like what Kevin's saying is, you could take also property, like, we don't want to be, like, the Conservation Commission doesn't want,
Right.
like, drains, culverts like that. I mean, that's not
I
there.
mean, and if you look through the property, there's like some parcels like up on, over toward your area, matter of fact, Naomi, where you
I
are.
know, I saw that.
There's like a 1/10 of an acre lot that's owned by the town. It's just, it was kind of like,
And I thought,
it just got,
I've never seen that
Right,
before.
and
Now
it's-
you gotta go look.
right, and it's just, you would, if you drove by, you think it would belong to the neighboring abutting property.
Yeah.
But it's a little strip of 1/10 of an
Yeah,
acre.
now, something like that.
And it belongs
Do we
to
want
Parks and
that?
Rec.
Right,
Can we get rid of that somehow? Can we?
yeah, when, if you want, make a recommendation to sell it or
To
give it to the,
Avalonia.
or not, well, they wouldn't take it, Avalone would.
I would
take that
say,
property, 'cause it's not
see if the
connected.
neighbor
to-
wanted it. 'Cause we did that over here, that triangle piece of land by the church.
Right, well, we ended up
So we-
deeding
we
it
did-
over, right, but that
did a
was,
swap.
well, that was a swap for a different reason, because what ended up happening, and nobody realized it, when they moved 117.
Yeah, left that weird piece.
They left that weird triangle piece and nobody realized it until they went to go sell the property and realized it was landlocked.
Yeah.
There was no frontage to any street in town.
But I thought we swapped that for another piece of property with somebody.
No, we ended up, we sold it to them for like $1 so that
Yeah.
it made them a legal conforming property.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those weird things that just never
Yeah.
got, it just kind of like got felt.
Yeah,
through the
when I was
loops.
going through that list, I saw those small parcels.
Right.
I was wondering, we can probably get rid of these somehow.
Yeah, and the likely way to get rid of, my opinion, was always, well, go see if the guy living next door to it wants to just here, take it.
So
Yeah.
how do you do that? You ask them if they wanna buy it
Yeah,
or?
you can sell it to
No, we
them.
just give it to them.
You have to do a legal land transaction
All right, well, all right,
for
for
something,
luck.
but yeah. But
And it's not gonna add much to his taxes, if anything at all. It's no, there's no. real value
I'm
there.
talking a lot of
Because I
property,
think-
but
I
it'd
don't
be,
know, just, that's he does. I'm sorry. Didn't say that out loud.
We're on tape. Shh.
like I said, take your time, take a look at it. And this is actually something that's been, I've been trying to working with land, staff to get the list updated for about 8 months. So there's no rush.
So your recommendation is that we
idea.
look at everything or just the ones that are in color?
I have to go through the whole list.
I think
Okay.
we should go through the whole list, number
Uh-huh.
one, but then I would say, take special attention to the ones that are kind of highlighted to see if something should be done with those.
Yeah, because the Irish ones, like, if under Avalon control, leave those alone, because that's a
Yeah.
done deal.
Well, it wouldn't be, if it's under Avalonia, it wouldn't be there. It's just
Well,
town
I'm
owned
saying, yeah,
property.
but It's already assigned. like-
Right, but it's like if you look
Ownership.
like the fairgrounds, it
Yeah.
says under Parks and Rec,
Right.
we're not gonna go
Yeah,
change
that's a done
that.
deal, but
Right.
with the weird parcels and the odd ones, just look at
Right.
those.
Right,
I'll have to go through every line, make sure we're clean.
Yeah.
Every line's clean.
Okay,
Any other questions or discussion on that?
No.
All right, so we'll continue with that, and we'll like John said, we'll go maybe a page at a time on that or two. So we're gonna move on to, get my eyes to work here again. We're on item number 6 on the agenda. Continued discussion regarding the progress of enforcing regulations to address blight issues.
there's no update.
Okay,
So literally, that town staff will provide us with a list of these are the ongoing blight issues and that's really all it is, just providing that list for us to review and ask the staff if there's any questions. Typically, the director of planning would be at these meetings.
okay. So is there a list currently?
There was a list previously, on one of the old, if you look back at some of the older agendas, you'll see the list attached. It just didn't get transferred over to
Yeah, I
here,
didn't
because we haven't got an
see-
updated
didn't
list
see.
then, so
And I know
as
there's
you-
a list.
I know, but, so there's been a lot of kind of influx going on with, as you're probably well aware of in the land use office with Liz Burdick leaving and bringing in our new director, Mike Cherry being the acting CEO, and so there's some influx
Zoning
going
guy
on.
bailing us.
Right, exactly. So
So who do we ask for the current list?
Oh, probably Juliet.
Juliet,
right?
yeah,
I went back to the Highlands, back putting out signs, there's some.
Yeah.
Some.
they're all foreclosed.
Some dumps. up
Most of
there.
those are foreclosed
Those are raccoon
properties.
hotels.
Yep.
Are you going to get that list, Counselor Paul?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Thank you.
reach out to Juliet for that. That's what I'm writing down right now.
Thank you.
Like I said, typically Juliet and has been attending the meetings, but since it wasn't on Zoom, she's
Well, she's probably in the meeting next door at Inland Wetlands or getting ready for that.
probably over
Right.
at wetlands.
All right. Any other discussion on that?
None.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 7 on the agenda, discussion regarding potential future uses for the 101.8 acre Clark Farm property located at 1025 Colonel Ledyard Highway.
No, it's already being farmed, and there's already the trail going through it.
Right. Remember, the farm is, so we have a lease with Walt Major to do farming activities on it. And that's pretty much the only thing that's going on, other than the Tri-Town Trail is actually using a path through it for
Right.
the part of the trail. But we've been keeping an eye on this, because this is one of those properties that, if you remember years ago, we acquired with a land
Yeah.
swap with the Mashantucket. We had the Indian Town Park up on 214, it was right adjacent to the reservation. And they own the Clark Farm. And the tribe approached the town a number of years ago, thinking it was advantageous for us to swap those properties, because at the time they were looking at putting that water park, and that's where they were thinking about put it there. And that, yeah, that was where they thought,
Yeah,
oh, that was probably like, probably 12
That
years
was a while
ago.
ago.
yeah.
12 or 15 years ago, that may have
Okay.
somewhere been the last so the town swapped those two properties as an even swap to. Cause they were looking at putting a water park on that parcel,
Yeah.
and they wanted to swap it with the town for the Clark Farm. We've kind of, would say we've maintained, the town council to maintain control of that property. Multiple reasons. One of the reasons was, hey, if we ever had to go do some rebuild a high school, it was a perfectly open space to go do that. But for the whole point, just to keep it as open space, so at the moment, but we've been maintaining control because we are leasing it out as a farming activity to Mr. Major. He was doing corn for a while, now he's using it for hay. And we just signed last year, we just signed a new lease with him to expand his use across the brook. So
How long's the lease?
I think it's a 3-year lease. This is something we just keep an eye on. So if something were to come up, we have this available property that town could use for something.
I have a question, and I'm just making sure just thinking something else. This wasn't ever discussed for the Ledger Fair, was it?
They wanted to.
I was gonna say.
So
I thought
Legend Fair wanted to
they
use
wanted
that property, but I didn't think that was the right one for them because of the other uses like the Tri-Town Trail and other things that were going on. And I had recommended to them the State Farm property, which is just right up, matter of fact, when you start the Tri-Town Trail, you walk
Yep,
across,
yep.
that property there is also under
Right,
administrative
right,
control of the
okay.
town council as well. So I had offered them that property to use.
Right, but for as not to buy, but as like a lease.
Yeah, it was a long-term lease is what they were requesting. We had come to some that fell through.
Because I know that they need infrastructure, so.
But they were looking at like the long-term lease, they were looking for a lease of like 5 years, extended up to 50. And we felt they kind of, they don't want to tie that property up for 50 years. It's,
It's quite a jump.
correct.
Yeah, that's
Well, they said we can't lease properties for longer than a certain time. But it was kind of one of those, it was gonna be a lease that was written that would be 5 years renewable up to 50.
First option.
Yeah.
So basically hasn't been basically what I'm getting from this is that the potential for future users right now has been kind of the status quo.
Yeah, it's been status quo. Because one of the other things too is that we were thinking that the council had been thinking for years too is, you gotta remember, Utopia was going on around then. So there may have been some development that came through there. So I prefer to keep it as open space and leave it the way it
Yeah,
is.
I kind of
That's just
tend
me.
to agree with you on that.
But I think a lot of this too, but there was some, I think there was some fighting going on between a couple of people. Because Don Greasy wanted to use that as a park.
Yeah, soccer.
Yeah, remember, he
Yeah.
put the soccer field here without telling anybody. One year they were doing some sort of
There's some
national
soccer
state
camp or something,
champion
yeah.
soccer camp, and it's like you drove by, it's like, where the hell did the soccer field come from?
Right. The other,
So this is kind of just like a standing, yep, we got no
So-
report, no action going on this one
we'll
for a
keep that
while.
as that if that's, all right, we'll just keep that.
Yeah, it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yep. We'll can always come back and talk about it.
Yep.
So we'll move on to item number 8. And that is discussion of possible action on the motion to recommend the town council amend appendix of ordinance 300-011 zoning board of appeals fee schedules as contained in the draft dated November 18th, 2021.
So this goes back to,
Oh, second,
what's that?
it's a motion, a second.
Possible action on the
Possible.
motion.
There's no motion.
No,
No, not yet. He was just
That's
reading it.
motion.
Possible
If
action.
you
But it's
want to
possible.
make the
It's
motion,
discussion and possible action.
oh, mine's a motion.
No, it
No,
says
no.
motion, but it's discussable action.
Mine
too.
says discussion and possible
Right.
action on the motion
Right.
to recommend.
So this, going back, is that this goes, if you go back to item number 2 on your agenda,
Mhm.
this would be the second part of that.
Right.
So
Okay.
update the fee structure.
So again, we have to wait for the attorney's opinion,
Yeah.
and then we can figure out how we're gonna word that in the fee structure.
Right, so if the attorney comes back and says, no, you can't charge a fee, then you would act on item number 2 to refund Mr. Maugle his money, and then update the fee ordinance, the fee schedule
Right.
to turn that number from
To-
500 to 0.
and it would follow this format, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now remember, since it's an appendix to the ordinance, it doesn't have to go to public hearing.
Okay.
It's just approval, just
And
simple
that
approval
fee
of town
structure was
council.
updated like 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Well, this is, so if you remember when we were going through and redoing the big initiative we had for
Yeah.
redoing all of the ordinance and into our new schedule that we have it.
Yeah.
That was one of the things we were kind of going back to ZBA on, hey, there's any updates? And we kept saying we need a fee structure. Because there was no fee structure.
Right, we know if we're losing money or not.
Right, well, there was nothing that told you what the fee was except for on the application. The only place the fee was actually worded
Right.
was on the application. So I said, no, you have to have a fee structure and it'd be included in as an appendix into the ordinance. So we finally got that, and that's what that was recommended at the time by staff and ZBA for that fee structure. But now, based upon this action that we're looking at, if, like I said, if that comes through, then we need to update the fee structure.
So we'll just defer that.
That's on
until
hold,
we
yeah.
get, all right, so. All right, any other comments on that? Okay, the last item on the agenda. Status update regarding security and safety concerns regarding the park on East Street. I did read a little bit about that. I guess there's a lot of vandalism.
There was a lot of vandalism going on. It has gotten better. So,
Are there cameras down there?
no.
I thought there-
I thought there were, I think some cameras actually were added, now that I think about it. But there was some brush was removed by Public Works, some additional lighting was added.
Yeah, it's much better now.
There was increased police patrols. I happen to know one of the residents over that way, and he frequently keeps, he works as EB as in the fire department. He'd pop into my office and go, hey, so I can get updates from him.
What are the updates lately?
Well, the last update I got talking with him was that there was an issue where the residents were feeling that when they saw things going on, that when they called the police were not as responsive as they basically, the residents were starting to think that the police were considering them to be nuisances for calling. That has since been resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Are you familiar with that park?
No, I wanted to do a drive-by. and-
Well, the
but-
driveway going in was narrow and covered with brush. So you really couldn't see into the park. 'Cause the park goes in, then goes off to the left.
Right.
So all the brush that was right here on the left-hand side got taken out. So now you can really see into the
It's
park.
open
itself.
end, right?
Can you give me
Open the way.
directions of how to get there? Like, what
Mm.
major street is it off of?
It's off of Christie
Hill.
Hill.
Okay,
I don't know
I can't remember the name of the
the
street.
name of the road. It's
Yeah,
East Drive.
I think it's East Drive.
I could find that on a map for you, but it's, yeah, I don't know the name of the road.
That's what East, it's East Street.
It's behind Todd Moore's house.
Yeah.
Google Todd Moore.
Yeah, it's on East Street.
I think
Which is
somebody
right off
here
of
gave
Christie
an
Hill.
address.
But
so I'll
but the
just-
residents have been, happy with that response.
Yeah, they've been happy, and like I said, and like I said, I get periodic updates from the mayor. I get periodic updates from the residents as well.
Yeah, it does make a difference. They do
I'll
that
have to
over.
get
at
There
that.
the
was a question in a letter about
Glacier.
upgrade to the
same thing.
park. Play,
The playscaper, yeah, I don't know if anything was done about that. I have the top of my head, I don't remember. But they were having issues with vandalism, drugs, and a few other things that were going on of nefarious nature, so that was kind of the concern.
So now that they can see in there. and
Now they can
stuff,
see in there, and the police are doing regular patrols, and it has improved. But admittedly, it hasn't gone away either, so.
No, I mean, like I said, I mean, we had the same thing, over at Glacier Park.
Yeah.
And then they came in and, they did all that brush work a couple years ago and it immediately solved.
Yeah, because now they can't hide behind the brush anymore.
You said, you look in there and see the couple cars. so,
Right.
So that did much better. All right, great. All right, it's a special meeting, so there is nothing else. So do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
second,
All in favor?
aye.
All righty. Meeting adjourned at 7:02.